everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, Twitch, and on X. I am Bryson Carver. Great to be with you on a Wednesday. And, you know, I got to admit, I was going back and forth on whether or not to leave my show with the Aaron Rodgers story, which, for those that may have not seen it, just hang on for about the next 10 minutes or so, because it's as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and as a guy who's been all but begging the organization for, a year now, it didn't work last year, see if it does this year, to not sign this man to be your starting quarterback after what Michael Pittman Jr. just said yesterday or a couple days ago on K. Adams' show. I am just out of my mind pissed off about it. Discuss that. More of a serious topic, the Puka Nacua situation with the Los Angeles Rams. Some really disturbing allegations with what's going on off the field with him. We'll get to that. How the Rams might very well approach this. We'll talk about that. To the NBA, Steph Curry could be coming back in the next week or so for the Golden State Warriors, my Golden State Warriors, who are just having the season from hell. Mock Draft 3.0, very excited about this one. I will say, in certain key aspects of this mock draft, not that many changes. However, there's some shakeup relative to last week's mock draft that I think you guys will stay tuned for. At the end of today's show, Major League Baseball season starts tonight between the New York Yankees and the San Francisco Giants. The kind of unofficial or official, however you want to word it, opening day is tomorrow. So I'll give you my predictions for AL MVP, NL MVP, and who goes to and wins the Fall Classic, the World Series, this October. So very excited to get into all of those things. But first, this story won't end. It really won't. And we might as well just get straight into it. Carving up the context, the segment we do every Wednesday. Dive into a subject, kind of look a little bit deeper than what many others are. No journalists don't claim to be, but I like to look at kind of the read the tea leaves and see what's going on. Like, oh, this doesn't look, the way it should, or whatever the case may be. So, as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, primetime Deion Sanders says, "Give me my theme music." This week's edition of Carving Up the Context, it's, again, the story that will not end. Aaron Rodgers has still not decided officially if he wants to play football in 2026 or not. And the Steelers, though, his team from a year ago, my Pittsburgh Steelers, I've actually liked our offseason a lot. You bring in Michael Pittman Jr., who you're going to hear from in just a second. In a soundbite, we've got Rico Dowdle you bring in. Okay, I like that. Yeah, got a nice 1-2 thunder lightning punch with him and Jalen Warren in the backfield. Okay, you add Jamel Dean, who's an excellent corner, opposite Joey Porter Jr. Like, okay, that makes sense. The Steelers might very well go offensive lineman in the first round of the draft. They need to. Mike McCarthy's an offensive guy. Like, okay, this is starting to make sense a little bit. But they have no idea who their quarterback's going to be. At least that's what we're hearing right now. Take a listen to brand new Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. By the way, love the acquisition. Put him opposite DK Metcalf. That's a nice 1-2 duo at wide receiver. He was on K. Adams' show the other day, and this is what he had to say about his Aaron Rodgers' status as far as he knows after he was traded to the Steelers. Take a listen to Michael Pittman Jr.
Obviously, the whole quarterback thing is going on, she's like, I don't know nothing.
Michael.
I haven't talked to Aaron.
What a way to put it. What a way to put it. Hold on. The whole quarterback thing going on. What do you mean you haven't talked to Aaron? What do you mean?
So I'm trying to give him space, because Aaron's a guy, like, he likes his space. Like, he likes to get, like, refreshed. Like, I didn't want to just get signed and then blow him up and be like, hey, Aaron, like what's the deal? But, just give him time, him and his wife, like, they got to handle some things, and then like he will decide if he wants to come back or not. But the fact that he's still out doing like flag football stuff and all that, and like I think that he wants to play, like just knowing Aaron prior to this, I just think that he's gonna try and play as long as he can.
Okay, so there was a line in there. Well, actually, I should say a couple lines in there that really stood out to me. One of them actually happens to be part of the title of this episode, that Aaron Rodgers, needs space, or whatever the case may be. Hey, listen, we all need space to a certain degree to figure out whatever we're going to figure out. Fine. And said, Aaron and his wife, we know Aaron got married, I think, sometime last year, and they've got some things they've got to sort out. I don't know if that's personal stuff, football stuff, whatever that is. Okay. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. I have folks see me as an Aaron Rodgers critic, and I think that's a fair characterization of how I viewed him over the years. I've always said, indisputably one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time. Indisputably a first ballot Hall of Fame, no question about it. 4-time MVP, absolutely. Super Bowl MVP. Aaron's one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the game, and anybody tells, I don't think anyone's going to tell you otherwise, but anyone who, a true Aaron Rodgers hater that says, oh, he's a legend. I've had critiques of his playoff performances at times, his leadership, which we'll get into in just a moment. He's indisputably one of the 10 greatest ever. I've always defended Aaron on the factor of, hey, it's the offseason. He wants to go do what he wants to do. Fine. That's his prerogative. This isn't happening during the season. He's not in week 8 going to Japan or something, unless it's week 8 is their bye week. Like, he hasn't gone that far. So long as he's not wasting other people's time. So long as he's not wasting the time of an organization that evidently, much to my chagrin, sounds like they want to bring him back. Mike McCarthy was talking to Kevin Harlan. Shout out to the great Kevin Harlan, by the way, at a Packers event the other day, and said, hey, it'd be a really cool story for me and Aaron to reunite. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl together in Green Bay back in 2010. And Michael Pittman Jr. is like, yeah, I think he's probably going to come back and play. And the Steelers, Omar Khan said a month ago, during the Combine, we're open to having Aaron back. Hopefully it doesn't take as long as it did. Okay. It is March 25th. The time this video is on the YouTube channel will probably be later than that. It's March 25th, 2026. The Pittsburgh Steelers season ended in pretty brutal fashion, by the way. January 12th against the Houston Texans on their home field in Pittsburgh at Acrisure Stadium. And in that spot, can we show what Aaron did in that game? Because he was really, really bad. No touchdown, 2 turnovers, both of which were returned for touchdowns. It was a strip sack, and then his final pass, the Steeler, pick 6 the other way, 51% completion, 146 yards, 50 passer rating, and a QBR from 0 to 100 of 14. And the Steelers did not score a single solitary point in the second half. Now, we know the Texans have an unbelievable defense, but the whole idea of Aaron Rodgers coming to Pittsburgh is, hey, could you at least win us a playoff game? Didn't even come close. This idea that Aaron Rodgers gets like his own separate timeline to make these decisions. I've likened him in many cases, and I think this is a prime opportunity since Michael Pittman Jr. mentioned some of the things with Aaron in his personal life, his wife and what have you. Okay. There's another legend who, at the stage he is at his career, he's an older player for his position, just like Aaron's an older player for his position, both of which are going to Canton, Ohio someday. Both of which are going to be first ballot Hall of Famers getting their busts in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The guy I'm referring to is Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, it was a big discussion on shows like mine, national television, podcast, print, what have you. Man, is this Travis Kelce's last year? He could just completed year 13. He's arguably the greatest pass catcher in the history of the playoffs. The numbers would tell you that. He's won 3 Super Bowls. Like, is Kelce going to say, hey, got great opportunities off the field? Of course, he's going to get married to Taylor Swift this summer. Does he want to play? First day of the offseason, I'm back. As a matter of fact, the other day, signs a 3-year deal. So maybe he's here for the long haul in Kansas City. Kelce's like, I'm all in. Do you think Travis Kelce I would make the case, there is no more busy player in the NFL off the field than that man. He's got new heights, got off-field opportunities, business, acting. He was in the new the Happy Gilmore movie, I think last year, a couple years ago. And, he's about to marry the most famous woman in the world this summer. He's quite busy. And yet somehow he found it in his time to make up his mind about whether he wanted to play football next year. And he said, I did. If he didn't want to, no problem. He says, I want to come back to the Kansas City Chiefs, and they happily obliged. Let me check my calendar of when the Chiefs season ended, because it must have been much further back than Pittsburgh season ended, because looks like they lost to the Raiders here on January 4th in week 18. And when did the Steelers season ended 8 days later? So Travis Kelce's able to make up his mind. Just yesterday, Levante David, legendary linebacker for the Buccaneers, announced, yeah, I'm retiring. 14 years, won a Super Bowl. I'm done playing football. Drafts coming up. Steelers do not have, and this is partly what Pittsburgh's doing. Steelers looks like don't have a plan right now at quarterback. What's new? Is Aaron Rodgers going to come back? And he's doing what he always does, and that's leaving the Steelers in string. Because I'm going to be honest with you, folks. Aaron said on the Pat McAfee show a few weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, that, the Steelers, they haven't offered me a contract yet. BS. I do not believe that. Omar Khan, I've got his quote right here from the Combine. In reference, he was asked about, hey, you guys interested in maybe bringing Aaron back? And Omar Khan, GM of the Steelers, said, and I quote, I think the circumstances are a little different, but just conversations we've had, I don't think either side wants to have this drag on like it did last year. For those that may not remember, Aaron Rodgers signed with the Steelers in early June. The offseason, for those that are curious, starts in mid-March. And most players in the NFL get their deals done, or there's trades that happen. Majority of that happen in like the first 5 to 7 days, first week. Aaron signed 3 months later with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So why do I bring that whole aspect of it up? Listen, if I had it my way, as if I were like the make-believe GM of the Steelers, after the Steelers, they technically didn't fire Mike Tomlin resigned when they were looking for their new head coach. Me personally, I would have hired Nate Scheelhaase, the now offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. I think that kid is brilliant. First of all, anybody that comes from the McVay tree knows what they're doing. Offensive coach, young offensive coach. Those guys tend to be very successful in the NFL, especially from great coaching trees like Sean McVay's is. I would have hired Nate Scheelhaase, traded all the veterans, the Metcalfs of the world, the TJ Watts, Cameron Hayward. I'm like, he's been here a decade plus. Give him the opportunity to stay or leave. Trade the veterans, get a bunch of draft picks, and build this thing from the bottom back up. The Steelers kind of met me in the middle. They're like, we'll get you an offensive coach, but an older offensive coach. I think Mike McCarthy's about 62 years of age. So listen, Andy Reid's coaching, deep into his 60s. You see some of these college basketball coaches in their 70s, Rick Pitino and Rick Barnes, doing their thing. Like this, McCarthy's still got enough time. We're going to go offensive coach, and an offensive coach who's proven enough that he can win right now and wants to win right now. And the Steelers have operated this offseason under that strategy. Bring in Michael Pittman, bring in Jamel Dean, Rico Dowdle. See what they do in the draft. Again, show the Steelers draft picks this year. They're in really good positioning. Part of this was because of the George Pickens trade last year. They got a compensatory pick, first-round pick, second-round pick. They got 3 thirds, 2 fourths, a 5th rounder, 3 sixths, and 2 7th rounders. So the Steelers are in really, really good position to kind of stockpile their roster with young talent. Or they can maybe put together some of those picks, move up in the draft if there's somebody that they like they're in really good position entering April. What about waiting for Aaron Rodgers makes this team better? What about waiting for Aaron Rodgers after everybody else has already made their decision because, they had 2 months to? What about waiting for Aaron? Gives the Steelers a chance to be a better football team in 2026 than they were in 2025. Listen, if the Steelers are hell-bent, if they're like, not sure if Will Howard's ready, because right now Will Howard would be the starter, and I'm not as high on Will Howard as other Steelers fans are. Hope I'm wrong, but I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. If the Steelers are hell-bent on signing an older veteran quarterback to kind of show Will Howard the ropes or to show maybe a quarterback they draft next year the ropes, then just sign Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is slightly less the player that Aaron Rodgers is 15 times the leader. I mean, it's a yearly occurrence. Remember a few years ago, Aaron Rodgers, 90-10 in retirement until when I went into the darkness retreat. I was done with football, baby. 3 years later, he's still playing. Remember when he said, Aaron Rodgers, who has a house in Malibu, the Packers reached out to him at the end of his Packers tenure, hey, trying to see where he's at, if he wants to come back to Green Bay. And Aaron Rodgers said, should have FaceTimed me. Cell phone service is terrible in, let me check, Malibu. It's a yearly occurrence with him. And I'll be honest, if Aaron Rodgers was still peak, circa 2011 to 2021 Aaron Rodgers, that to me is like the heart of his prime, winning MVPs, going to NFC championship games. Yeah, sure. Listen, it's annoying. it's obnoxious, but what are you going to do? You got to bring him back. He's one of the 5 best players in his position. He's an MVP. And folks that'll look back at the numbers last year like, Aaron's numbers actually weren't bad last year. They were awful against good teams, and that's who you got to beat in order to get to the next level, which the Steelers, I would hope, want to do. Aaron Rodgers against playoff teams last year, he was garbage. He had as many picks as touchdowns. He completed less than 60% of his passes, 164 yards a game, a 70 passer rating, A QBR 0 to 100 of 23 and a 1-5 record against playoff teams in 2025. That one win, by the way, came back in week 3 against the Patriots before the Patriots got rolling. The Steelers forced 5 turnovers and won by 7. So probably should have won that game. I remember saying at the time, like, gosh, we kind of escaped with that one. What is the upside of waiting for a guy well past his prime physically, who was, in the last time you saw him play in the postseason, DK Metcalf, fresh off a suspension, you want to get him incorporating the offense, drops a pass in the first quarter. It was a great throw by Aaron. DK just dropped it. Aaron doesn't target him until the fourth quarter because that's what Aaron does. He did it with Mercedes Lewis in a playoff game back in 2021. He did it with Christian Watson in the first game of his career in 2022, where if you dropped a pass, fumble, if you screwed up, I'm icing you out until like the very end of the game. That's who Aaron is. And now we got to wait. We got to give him space. He's had 2 months. And by the way, if he doesn't want to play, fine, retire. Great. Wish you the best. You're going to go in Canton in 5 years and be immortalized as a legend. I really hope that the Steelers aren't just abiding by this game he's playing once again. When you hear Michael Pittman Jr. say, yeah, I think he's probably going to come back and play next year. When you hear Mike McCarthy say, yeah, a reunion would be pretty cool. Are they not going to set a deadline like, hey, buddy, we've got to make decisions that are in the best interest of the Steelers. You in or out? You a Steeler or not? Because I can assure you, especially now that the Vikings have signed Kyler Murray, because that might have been an option for Aaron based on how the Vikings feel about J.J. McCarthy. Some of these other teams, not that interested in you, buddy. One of the best run organizations in the NFL traded your butt to the New York Jets. The Jets cut you. And then in Pittsburgh last year after a game against the Dolphins, when you were talking about Kenneth Gainwell and Antoine Winfield Jr. and Connor Hayward, these guys, man, they're cast-offs, and, a bunch of the league doubted them, and here they are balling in Pittsburgh. And a reporter asked him, she says, Aaron, do you see yourself as a cast-off? He says, no, I'm not a cast-off. Buddy, you've played for 3 teams in 4 years. You're a cast-off. You're a legend, but you're a cast-off. And the Steelers are letting him manipulate this organization, manipulate their offseason as if he's still the best quarterback in football when he's probably closer to the 21st, if we're being honest. So in this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, I don't get it. Why are they doing this? If you want to sign a vet, just go get Kirk Cousins and call it a day. I mean, honestly. With the weapons you got, hopefully you upgrade your offensive line. You're going to give Kirk a running game. The Steelers' defense should be better than it was a year ago because it's hard for it to be much worse. But you're waiting for the old guy who's not terribly committed to football, certainly not that committed to his teammates and coaches and organization, who is the only organization that wants him for reasons I can't explain. It's unbelievable. So that's it for this week's edition of Carving the Context. I don't get the rationale and the logic for this. Like, if the Steelers wanted to tank, they probably wouldn't be bringing in the good vet players that they are. Pittman, Dowdle, Jamel Dean. Bringing back, of course, Asante, I said Antoine. Did I say Antoine with? I meant to say Asante Samuel Jr. I apologize. Bringing in some of these vet guys. They probably wouldn't be tanking if that was. They're probably not tank, I should say, if that's the strategy to bring in players that can help you win right now, and keeping the guys like DK Metcalf, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, who's coming back this season for year 15 or year 16, maybe. Cam Hayward's been here a long time, and he's done an unbelievable job. But I'm sick of this guy operating, and by the way, getting away with just the rules not applying to him. That's how it goes. Kelsey decided, I'm coming back. Levante David yesterday, I'm retiring. Harrison Smith, some people might point to him like, Harrison Smith was cut by the Vikings for salary purposes, but they might bring him back if he wants to play. So you could say, does he know if he's going to play or not? First of all, Harrison Smith's been there. I think he's played 14 years with the Vikings, so he's put a lot of sweat equity with that franchise. Aaron's been a Steeler for a year. And number 2, if they draft the kid out of Oregon, he's the backup strong safety. Aaron's the starting quarterback. Bit of a value difference as it pertains to your impact on the field. I just don't get why the Steelers are doing this. Okay, so kind of a serious topic. Shift gears a little bit, staying in the NFL. But going to the Los Angeles Rams now. So we have some pretty serious allegations against Puka Nacua, the wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams. And I'm reading this off of ESPN. Sarah Barshop reporting this today, that a woman in Los Angeles has filed a civil lawsuit against Puka Nacua, alleging the Rams wide receiver made an unprovoked anti-Semitic statement and later bit her on the shoulder. The lawsuit cites gender violence, assault and battery, and negligence. And then it goes on to say the anti-Semitic remark that he allegedly made, that she felt immediately uncomfortable and emotionally distressed. Later in the lawsuit, the woman who's accusing him of this said she was in a car with Puka Nacua when he forcibly bit her on the left shoulder, leaving a circular imprint of his teeth on her body. There is a picture of this. We're not going to show it on the air, but there is a picture of this. The lawsuit also alleges that Nacua bit her friend's thumb in the car with such force that her companion screamed in acute pain. One was filed for a temporary restraining order, but that request was denied. A hearing is scheduled for April 14th, according to multiple reports. And then it says Puka's attorney says he denies the allegations in the strongest possible terms and says that this is not a legitimate legal claim. It is blackmail. Okay. So that's both sides of the story. These are all allegations. Everyone's going to have their day in court. So here's what we do know about Puka. I literally said on the show Monday, I think he's a top 3 receiver in the game. I think it's in no particular order: Jackson Smith-Njigba, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua. Put them in whatever order you want. Those guys are the best 3 in the league. Jamar Chase is in that discussion as well. Those to me are the 3 best. But just in the last, it's March, 4 months, Puka Nacua has done the following. He went on a live stream with Aiden Ross, who's a doofus streamer, and did an anti-Semitic touchdown dance that he then had to apologize for saying that he would do. He then stated in another moment of poor judgment that concussions aren't real. His brother got arrested for stealing an NBA player's car. He also, in that same live stream with Aiden Ross, said the NFL, he accused the NFL refs of making up calls to tell their friends that they were on TV, and then went to the Super Bowl, got absolutely hammered drunk, and was ripping Sam Darnold, who everyone was kind of like generally celebrating, like, what a great comeback story. And he says, screw this guy. And then, of course, now you have allegations of some pretty disgusting behavior. He'll have his day in court. We'll see how it plays out. Here's what I do know about the Rams. The way they've operated this offseason, and I think smartly so, because Matt Stafford's not getting any younger. He's going into year 18 as a quarterback in the NFL. Could retire any minute now, any one of the next few years. They're operating with the trade for Trent McDuffie from the Chiefs, adding Jalen Watson. They're saying, man, this is all in, man. We are going for it. It is a Super Bowl or bust for the Los Angeles Rams. Yes, they won back in 2021, so it's not like if they come up short, they're in the same predicament as the Bills or the Ravens or teams that are so close and just can't get over the top. They've at least got one Lombardi trophy to fall back on, but they won another. An organization this well run. Stan Kroenke, the owner, Les Snead, the GM, Sean McVay, the coach, all A++s at their jobs. Matt Stafford, who's an elite leader. Devontae Adams, who's an excellent locker room presence and still a very productive player, was darn near automatic in the red zone for this team. A defense that's young, but kind of got exposed at the end of the season, particularly the back end of their secondary. That's why the Rams added that in the offseason. See what they do in this draft. This is a serious championship first. We are going all in for this season 2026 type of team. And you've got probably the best player on the team, unless you think Stafford's better, which you can make that case as the MVP of the league. Arguably the best player in their team, Puka Nacua, who's already engaged in idiotic behavior off the field and could have potentially engaged, allegedly, in some very disturbing behavior off of the field. The Rams won't, listen, they're not going to cut him. Unless something just even bigger than this comes out. I don't think he's getting a contract extension. I don't. When you have a Jackson Smith-Njigba, we'll pull up this graphic kind of last minute here, but when you have a Jackson Smith-Njigba who gets the bag, rightfully so, from the Seattle Seahawks, highest paid receiver in NFL history, highest paid receiver in the NFL currently, if we can look at the top 5 highest paid receivers in the league, JSN, $42 million a year. Jamar Chase, 40. Justin Jefferson, 35. CeeDee Lamb, 34. DK Metcalf, 33. You imagine what Puka Nacua, based on his production, it's going to exceed the four guys on the right side of that screen. And you would think he probably wants to eclipse JSN. Now, JSN, reigning Offensive Player of the Year, Super Bowl champion. By the way, high character guy. I think the Rams don't offer him a contract extension. And if Puka really wants to push this, do you think it's on the board, just as a suggestion, that the Los Angeles Rams and Les Snead call Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles and say, we want A.J. Brown? Les Snead, what was his famous phrase when the Rams went for it and were rewarded in 2021 winning a Super Bowl? F them picks. You give a dang about picks. Howie Roseman loves him some draft picks. He's one of the best drafters in the NFL. You could say, you're trading him to a team that is contending in the NFC. Yes. Also at the same time, man, Philly's got a Super Bowl. Sirianni's on the hot seat. Like, this could disintegrate really, really quickly in Philadelphia. I think Howie Roseman understands that. And I think the relationship between A.J. Brown and the front office and the quarterback and the coach is bordering on untenable. You add him to the Rams. By the way, he's under contract until 2029. So contract, that won't be an issue. They'll probably have to maneuver and manipulate the salary cap to a certain degree in order to make it work. But giving up multiple first-round picks, I imagine Puka would be a part of that deal. What Philadelphia would do with him, who knows, depending on what's going on with the off-the-field stuff. That's why I think a big reason why Stephon Diggs hasn't been signed yet, because he's dealing with similar stuff off the field from a legal standpoint. I think if this gets bad enough, and if Puka's judgment continues to be at best dumb and at worst inappropriate, bordering on dangerous, I think the Rams will have to adjust accordingly to that. Not just for the good of their franchise and how, the kind of standard they want to set. Listen, no NFL player is perfect. No person is perfect, but there is a certain level of decorum and how you're supposed to treat people and conduct yourself and what have you. But also on the field, this is a team trying to win a championship right now. Came so close to doing it a year ago. If they beat Seattle, I think we all agree. Yeah, they beat the Patriots. Again, matchups are a little bit different. The Rams defense wasn't nearly as good as Seattle, so the Patriots offense probably would have had more success than they did, but the Rams offense is better than Seattle's offense. I think the Rams would have won that game. I think the NFC Championship last year between Seattle and LA, that was the Super Bowl. And the Rams won by the skin of their teeth against the Seahawks. It's going to be really hard to get to the next level, to get that Lombardi trophy with best or second best player on your team behaving poorly and allegedly, according to this lawsuit, in a very inappropriate and potentially dangerous manner. So, listen, wishing everybody involved nothing but the best. Again, going to have their day in court. We'll have more on the story as it continues to develop. But I think the Rams they're a smart franchise. They're monitoring this closely to see, okay, what are the next steps we take? Because we can't have this jeopardize our chance to win a championship, and we can't have this as like a black mark on our franchise that we tolerate this kind of behavior. So we'll see. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, going to do probably a short segment on my Golden State Warriors because it's truly been the season from hell. And Steph Curry might be back. How do I feel about that? I'm not excited about that. So, very excited for Mock Draft 3.0. Little bit of best player available, more so than team needs type of mock draft. Very excited to get into that. And at the end of today's show, get my predictions for the 2026 Major League Baseball season, which begins tonight between the San Francisco Giants and the New York Yankees on Netflix, by the way, who obviously signed a new television deal with Major League Baseball. Get to all that and Carving Up Live in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Wednesday. Before we get to our next segment about the Golden State Warriors, check out the Carving It Up merchandise. Scan the QR code on the top left corner of your screen. It'll take you to the website. We got hats, we got t-shirts, we've got anything you can possibly imagine from a merchandise perspective. You can also look at our merch for other great Grid Network content creators. We got Barry Grant Jr. with the All Even Podcast, Alfred Parsard Jr. with the Metropolitan Report, Mike Guido and Josh Tariff, Mike and Josh, just unbelievable content creators in the network. My guys, Anth, Adam, and AJ from the Cowboys Cam Fan. Check out their merchandise on the website as well. If you just want regular Grid merch as well, we got that too. Just scan the QR code on the top left corner of your screen. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Now let's shift to the Golden State Warriors. Some of you might remember back in October, it was actually the 6-year anniversary show of Carving Up Live, and at the very end, it happened to coincide with opening night in the NBA. So I made my opening night NBA predictions just like I'm going to make my baseball predictions at the end of today's show. And I said, if healthy, Golden State's winning the title. Well, how's that gone? Mid-April, Jimmy Butler blows his ACL. Did I say mid-April? Mid-January, Jimmy Butler blows his ACL. Late January, Steph Curry suffers runner's knee and hasn't played since. We'll get to him in a second because he could be back soon. And Kristaps Porzingis, they make the move for him. He's been out of the lineup. We obviously know there's the mysterious illness going on with him. Folks thought it might have been POTS. Steve Kerr and the Warriors say that's actually not what it is. He's been available as of late, which is great on the court and for his health as well. And then just a gut punch. Moses Moody, who's having an outstanding game coming back from a hand injury. In overtime, Monday night against the Dallas Mavericks, steals a pass. He's going to get a breakaway dunk. Goes up, and as soon as he drops his body weight on his knees to go up to generate power to go for the dunk, he just collapses and falls, and he suffered a torn patellar tendon. So, and he's out obviously the rest of this year, and who knows for how much of next season. It was gutting to see. You saw Draymond on, at the baseline comforting Moses Moody. They put like a towel or a cast or something over his knee so that people wouldn't see it. But there was a shot from the NBC cameras that caught it. It was gruesome. And so praying for Moses Moody, wishing nothing but the best for him, and just sucks for him. And so obviously the Warriors in championship contention because of the injuries. That's been dead since Jimmy Butler went down. However, as reported by Anthony Slater, Shams Charania, other sources, other insiders in the NBA game, Steph Curry might be back at some point in the next week or so. At this point, he's listed as day-to-day. The fact that Anthony Slater, who covers the Warriors for ESPN, used to for The Athletic, anytime that Anthony Slater reports on the Warriors injury reports, he's now listing Steph Curry as, okay, he's out, but day-to-day, the Warriors will reevaluate. Like, he's getting closer, barring any setbacks with the knee. He should be scrimmaging soon. We'll see how that goes. Steph Curry should be available before the end of the NBA's regular season. And I say the regular season because, for better or for worse, the Golden State Warriors are locked into the play-in tournament. No way on planet Earth they can catch the 6th seed, which is currently Houston, and no way they can fall to, below the 10, which right now I think the 11 is Memphis, and they can be eliminated, I think, tonight. So the Warriors are going to be in the play-in, for better or for worse. The goal for Golden State is, can we just get into that 8th seed so that we just have to win one game to get into the postseason as opposed to 2 straight with no margin of error. I'll maintain what I've said about this whole situation. If Steph Curry were 30, I don't want to see him anywhere near an NBA floor. I don't want to see him on the bench. There could be a collision. There could be, Steph being the competitive and individual that he is. He might go out there during warm-ups and push himself a little bit more so that I don't want to see Steph near the court. Steph just turned 38 years old a couple of weeks ago. Now, I've religiously said for the last few years on Carving It Up that I think Steph is going to be the Tom Brady of the NBA. Not in the sense that he's the best player in the world, the way I thought Tom, even at age 44 before his last season, was still the best quarterback in football. That's not going to be the case. Where what I mean by that is Steph, the way he takes care of his body, his game in particular is not that dependent on athleticism. Steph can play until he's 42, 43 and still be probably not a star, but an effective player. I mean, if LeBron James, who obviously ranks above Steph in the all-time rankings, but if LeBron at 41 years old, whose game is partially predicated on athleticism, if he's still averaging 20 a game on 50% shooting and about 6 assists a game, who's to say Steph can't be, 17 to 20 a game on good, efficient shooting? At worst case scenario, he's a catch and shoot guy. I think Steph could play that role quite well. Steve Curry even mentioned this the other day. Listen, Steph's 38. This is year 17. Not sure how many more opportunities he's going to get to be in the postseason. And especially as harsh of a reality as this is, for me as a Warriors fan, let's be honest. Can't be delusional about this. What's the Warriors' path forward to being a legitimate contender in the West? Forget just from their perspective, but from the perspective of OKC's not going anywhere. The Spurs are just going to get better. And Denver still got Jokic. The Lakers are going to have Luka for the foreseeable future. We'll see if Rob Pelinka can put a better roster around him than he has. I think this roster is flawed. I think it's going to get the Lakers beat in the playoffs, the defensive end. I maintain that. We'll see how it plays out. From the Warriors' perspective, Steph's 38. I think Jimmy's going to be 36 next season. Draymond is 35, 36. So there's an age factor. They've got assets. They've got 4 unprotected firsts. Is that a better package than what the Rockets can give? What the Spurs, God forbid, OKC could give the Milwaukee Bucks for Giannis Antetokounmpo in the offseason? I don't think it is. I think it was a more attractive deal at the trade deadline. Not now. At least not relative to what those other teams can bring to the table this summer. And so I think if you're Steph, and if you are intent on, I'm going to be the Dirk Nowitzki, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant of this era. Whereas I'm sticking with one franchise, who I've won championships with, won MVPs for 20 years. Riding off of the sunset, Warrior for life. Because I think that's what Steph has indicated. He'd like to be a Warrior for the rest of his career. Now, he's also said, I'd like to contend for championships. And that to me is code for, if the Warriors are just a wreck, if it's the way the Lakers were with Kobe, where it's they're like the worst team in basketball, and Kobe's just limping to the finish line, you don't want to see that. But as long as Kerr's there, as long as Steph, Jimmy will come back, what he'll look like when he comes back, who knows, but he'll come back next year off the ACL. We'll see what the Warriors decide to do with a draft pick, which, if they don't make the playoffs, could be pretty high in a draft that is absolutely loaded with talent. It's one of the deeper drafts we've seen in recent memory. I'll say this, if the Warriors could fall out of the play-in, if it was they have a 2-game lead on Memphis or New Orleans, I'd say, man, it's not worth it. I'm not trying to get into a battle with the Grizzlies and the Pelicans just to get the 10 seed. Just sit Steph, tank, and get a high draft pick. Well, and now Dallas got lucky last year. Dallas made the play-in and still got the number 1 pick and got Cooper Flagg. Maybe the Warriors get lucky. Who knows? Doubt it. Chances are slim. They'd be much better if you could fall out of the play-in. You can't. I think Memphis can be officially eliminated from play-in contention tonight, which means Golden State's locked in. Why not let him come back? It's year 17, age 38. You have a chance to see Steph Curry in the playoffs. Long as the knee isn't in a position to be re-aggravated, I think you should let him come back. I do. Now, if the knee isn't getting better or he can't scrimmage, obviously you're holding him out. You're not rushing Steph out there to go out there and get crushed in 5 games by the Spurs or the Thunder. It's not worth it. But if he's healthy, you want to see Steph in the biggest games. All right. I think that was a relatively, not optimistic, but a real look at the Warriors. That wasn't quite as bad as I thought. Let's shift to Mock Draft 3.0. So we've been doing this on Carving Up the last few weeks. I will say in advance, in all likelihood, probably we'll be taking next week on the show off. We might put out some short clips, but taking next week off and then come back the next week. March Madness, national championships, men's, women's, and then the NBA playoffs starts pretty soon after, and then you've got the draft. So likely we'll take next week off of the show. So that means no Mock Draft 4.0 next week. It'll come 2 weeks from now. But as for Mock Draft 3.0, let's just go and get right into it, because the top 4 picks, exactly the same as they were last week. Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders, foregone conclusion. We don't even need to talk about that. Arvell Reese going to the New York Jets. Again, I think it makes all the sense in the world. You got a defensive head coach. You were able to bring in some good defensive piece in the offseason who could be mentors for Arvell Reese. That makes sense. David Bailey had him going to the Arizona Cardinals in last week's draft. Don't think that's going to change. They desperately need help on the outside. The Jets could draft David Bailey, but I think Arvell Reese, best overall player in the draft. They want to go all in on defense. He makes sense. And so David Bailey then falls to the Cardinals. Jeremiah Love, 3 mock drafts. 3 times I've got Jeremiah Love going to the Tennessee Titans. Again, I think it would be it makes all the sense in the world. They've added some, help for Cam Moore on the offensive side of the ball. Brian Dable, not the best head coach, really smart play caller and offensive coordinator. If you're able to give Cam Moore, who showed promise at the end of last season, a legitimate running game, that'll help his development in a major, major way. The next 4 picks, 3 of these 4 are exactly the same as they were a week ago. Francis Mauigoa going to the New York Giants, offensive tackle to Miami. Listen, Jackson Dart's a reckless player as is. You want to try and keep that pocket as clean as you possibly can. He's arguably the best tackle in this draft. Carnell Tate, 3 straight mock drafts. I've had him going to the Cleveland Browns, who desperately need as much help as they can possibly get on the offensive side of the ball. I could see them potentially going O-line. That their O-line's pretty bad. I think Carnell Tate, top receiver in this class, in my opinion. Ruben Bain, only change in picks 5 through 8. Ruben Bain, pass rusher out of Miami, going to the Washington Commanders. Again, I had them going Caleb Downs in the last draft, who's the best DB in this draft. But if you're talking about Ruben Bain, you're talking about a guy who can, set the edge, who can, get pressure on the quarterback. And when you're in a division with Dak Prescott, with Jalen Hurts, with Jackson Dart, as bad as Washington's defense is, you need all the help in the world to be able to, to help that. Ruben Bain can do that. Jordan Tyson, again, 3rd straight mock draft. I've had him going to the New Orleans Saints. I'll tell you what, when you look at Saints coverage, and some of my fellow content creators, shout out to NFL with AJL, does some great stuff. When you see Saints fans talk about Tyler Shuck, like they think, and by the way, there's reason to have optimism in this regard. They think, hey, he's the second coming of Drew Brees. Here we go. Well, let's see that. Let's see him, get some help here with Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State. In my mind, the second best player at his position in this draft. Next, 4 draft picks. Caleb Downs goes to the Kansas City Chiefs at number 9. Again, I think this is a situation where it's, okay, we've lost a lot of guys, in free agency on the back end of our defense, most notably Trent McDuffie. Caleb Downs is able to solidify the back end of that defense. I considered having them go pass rusher here. I have in the last 2 mock drafts. We'll see how the next few weeks play out as we get to the first round of the NFL draft. Akeem Mesidor, the other pass rusher out of Miami, he goes to the Bengals. They obviously lost Trey Hendrickson. Cincinnati's one of those teams that just needs to draft only on one side of the ball, on defense, unless they want to go O-line to protect Joe Burrow. We'll see. Akeem Mesidor goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. Sonny Styles, linebacker of Ohio State, he goes to the Miami Dolphins. Again, this is a defensive team. Jeff Hafley is the new head coach. I think he's going to want to try and go all in, put the building blocks there on his side of the football to make sure, hey, if nothing else, you can't blame me for not doing my job with my side of the ball. I'm a defensive coach. Let's load up on the defense. And again, 3 straight drafts. I've had the Cowboys taking the same guy at number 12, Jermon McCoy, my guy out of Tennessee. There's a lot of concerns. Okay, is the knee okay? The more reports that come out and the fact that his pro day is coming up, I think in just a few days, there seems to be this feeling of, okay, he's fine. The knee's fine. It's not a concern. Jermon McCoy already wasn't a guy who's going to bring elite speed and athleticism to the table, but he is as technically sound as there is, at his position in the draft. Jermon McCoy, to me, the second best DB in this draft. Caleb Downs, he goes to the Dallas Cowboys at number 12. Next 4 picks, and I'm sure 16 is going to stand out to some people. I'll save my commentary on that for a second. Spencer Fano, tackle out of Utah, goes to the Rams. Let's protect Matthew Stafford. I considered, you heard me discuss the, very concerning Puka Nacua news off the field. They could go wide receiver. If that goes haywire, we'll see. But I think right now, focus on the offensive line. Let's protect Matthew Stafford. He's 38 years of age, going to year 17. Let's make sure he's protected, or year 18, I should say. Let's make sure he's protected going into the Super Bowl potential run. Kenyon Sadiq, man, talk about somebody whose draft stock has risen a lot in the last week. People are crazy about his athleticism. Maybe he wasn't used as much as he should have been in Oregon. Listen, going to the Baltimore Ravens in the spot, okay, you're like, oh, they got Mark Andrews. Listen, Baltimore's operated with 2 really good tight ends the last couple of years. Well, one of those guys, Isaiah Likely, is a New York Giant now, and the other, Mark Andrews, is getting older. So let's give Lamar Jackson some help at pass catcher. I had considered them going offensive line. I decided they go with, Kenyon Sadiq at number 14 out of Oregon. I own the guard out of Penn State. Listen, the Bucs need to go defense in this draft. We understand that. However, they do need help on up front in terms of their offensive line. I think they go guard, in this spot. And the Jets go with their quarterback. They go with Ty Simpson with the 16th overall pick. This is the first time I have had Ty Simpson in any of the mock drafts. Listen, I don't think anybody's as high on him as Dan Orlovsky. Dan Orlovsky's out here saying, Fernando Mendoza, has he ever really played a big game in his life? The Heisman Trophy winner led Indiana to an undefeated national championship season. Has he ever played a big game in his life? Listen, Ty Simpson's the classic example of how I felt about J.J. McCarthy a couple of years ago. Hey, interviews well, smart kid, coach's son, that always helps. In terms of tangible traits, good arm, not special. He can move. He's not, Lamar Jackson. He's a good, solid, sound quarterback. I think this is the worst situation for him to go into is the Jets hoping that he's the savior. I guess he'd back up Geno Smith and then start either the end of 2026 or start 2027. But his draft stock's risen in recent days. Listen, we know quarterback, the premium position. We also know, on the other hand, this is a very weak quarterback draft outside of Fernando Mendoza. But I think that the New York Jets in this mock draft go with Ty Simpson with the 16th overall pick and their second first-round pick. Next 4 draft picks. Second straight one, I've had Monroe Freeling going to the Detroit Lions with the 17th pick, offensive tackle out of Georgia. Again, he just feels like a Detroit Lion type of guy. He feels like a Dan Campbell, bite your kneecaps type of guy. Big, 6'7", can protect Jared Goff. We know the book on Jared Goff. If he's got a clean pocket, he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. If he does have a clean pocket, he's a shell of himself. He looks like a backup quarterback. Dylan Thieneman going to the Minnesota Vikings, safety out of Oregon, second straight mock draft. I've had him going to Minnesota, likely to replace Harrison Smith. Mekhi Lemon, 19th overall to the Carolina Panthers, wide receiver out of USC. I like this kid a lot. I like the speed he brings to the table. Let's give Bryce Young another weapon on the outside with Ted McMillan. Let's see, because the Panthers almost certainly are not going to extend Bryce Young this offseason, nor should they. Got to see a little bit more. Let's give him another weapon and see if we can make the playoffs for the second year in a row. And the Cowboys, again, we know they got to fix that defense. They go with Keldrick Falk, the edge rusher out of Auburn, to try and in their minds, hopefully replace Micah Parsons. Dallas is great in the interior. At pass rusher, pretty weak. That tends to happen when you trade Micah Parsons. They're hoping Keldrick Falk can be that guy. Next 4 picks. Second straight mock draft. I've had my Pittsburgh Steelers going with Caden Proctor, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Folks are really liking his draft stock in recent days. Somebody can protect Will Howard, a quarterback of the future. Hopefully it's not Aaron Rodgers, because hopefully the Steelers say, hey, we're sick of your BS, Aaron. We'll see. Colton Hood, the other DB out of Tennessee, goes to the Los Angeles Chargers. He's a playmaker. He's a ball hawk type of guy, great tackler. Again, led the Vols in tackles last year, which folks are like, is that a knock on Tennessee's defense? The answer, absolutely unequivocally, yes. The Tennessee Vols defense was awful last year. He was the one shining star in, or at least consistently on certainly the back end of the defense and the defense entirely. For my Vols, Colton Hood goes to the LA Chargers. Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington, goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, I don't think A.J. Brown's going to be an Eagle on April 23rd, the first night of the NFL draft. So I think they say, hey, let's go with the best receiver on the board, Denzel Boston, to help out Jalen Hurts. Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle out of Utah. Again, the Browns need help up front. They decide to go with the tackle out of Utah. Next 4 picks. TJ Parker, edge rusher out of Clemson, goes to the Chicago Bears. We know Chicago's got a lot of holes in their defense. They're hoping that they can be able to address those in the draft. They do not have any pass rush presence whatsoever in an NFC with some excellent quarterbacks such as Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold, among others. You want to make sure, and Jordan Love in your own division, Jared Goff, you want to make sure that you can be able to get to the quarterback. TJ Parker can help you do that. Mansour Delane, cornerback out of LSU, goes to the Bills. The Bills' weakness, it feels like for years on their defense, has been the back end, has been the secondary. There are some, I'm seeing folks say like, is this kid the best, not defensive back, that's Caleb Downs. Is he the best corner in the draft? Corner out of LSU goes to the to the Buffalo Bills at number 26. Caden McDonald. Caden McDonald feels like a classic San Francisco 49ers pick, right? This is somebody who could stop the run. We know in the NFC West, you got Seattle. You got, the LA Rams, teams that can run the football effectively. And the 49ers, for my whole life, it feels like, or at least the last decade, at the very least, love going with defensive linemen. Caden McDonald fills that need. Max Inachor, offensive tackle at Arizona State, goes to the Texans. Again, the least shocked I would be at any team in the first round of the draft trading up to address a serious need would be the Houston Texans to try and protect C.J. Stroud, because similar to the Carolina Panthers, they're almost certainly not going to extend C.J. Stroud. So let's see what he does in year 4. Got to give him some more protection up front. This would help them do that. And then final 4 picks of the first round. Kansas City's like, hey, we're going all secondary. Avion Terrell, defensive back out of Clemson. His draft stock is rising in recent weeks. Like what I see from him. The third straight mock draft, I've had Omar Cooper going with the 30th overall pick. Now, the first mock draft, I had him going to Denver because this was Denver's pick. Well, they traded him they traded the pick in the Jalen Waddle deal to the Dolphins. Dolphins need wide receiver help in the worst way. Omar Cooper, best wide receiver on the board at this point. Zion Young, Edge rusher out of Missouri goes to the Patriots. I know they added Draymond Jones in the offseason. I think that's a smart move on their part. At the end of the day, I still think they need help. That was a big issue for them in the playoffs, particularly in the Super Bowls. They just could not get consistent pressure around the edges. Zion Young would help that. And then Brandon Sissay, for the defensive back out of South Carolina, goes to the Seahawks. Seattle's lost a lot of guys in the back end of their secondary. Rick Woolen, for example. Let's see if they can be able to help that back end by getting Brandon Sissay, the cornerback, I should say, from South Carolina. So there you go. That's mock draft 3.0. And listen, I tended to lean more so on like best player on the board than team need. Like, again, I think put up the last 4 picks, like the Kansas City Chiefs. You can make the case they take Omar Cooper. I think Kansas City's of the mindset of, rightly or wrongly, we've got Patrick Mahomes, got Kelsey, we got him a running game with Kenneth Walker. We think we can probably find him some weapons in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th rounds. There's been some excellent late round wide receiver prospects. I think Kansas City's kind of that mindset. Let's just fix our secondary, one fell swoop. Let's get Caleb Downs, who's the best DB in the draft. Let's get Avion Terrell, the excellent cornerback from Clemson. And so again, some of it's team needs, some of it's best player available. And so that's where I think, because if you put up, the next 4 picks from there, from 21 to 24, I should say, I don't think Caden Proctor's the best player in this group. I think it's Colton Hood. But I think if you're Pittsburgh, you need help in the worst way at tackle. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers drafted a lot of offensive linemen over the last few years. Mike Tomlin, one of his glaring weaknesses as a head coach, could not develop an offensive line. Mike McCarthy, much more successful in that regard in Green Bay and in Dallas. I think Caden Proctor would be a smart pick for Pittsburgh. So that's what I've got. The more I read, the more it comes out. And again, it's April 25th, so we've got 29 days to the first round of the draft. I really don't think the Steelers are going to take Ty Simpson. I mean, if it's a situation where it's just a shocking plummet to like the 3rd round or something, they might consider it. They have multiple 3rd round picks. They might think about doing it. At the end of the day, they're of the mindset. Our quarterbacks for the long term is either Will Howard, which I'm not a believer in that idea, but I hope the Steelers are right on that, or we draft a quarterback in a much better draft in 2027. Arch Manning, Dante Moore. There's some good prospects next year, so we'll see how that continues to develop. Gonna take a quick break. When we come back, folks, opening night in Major League Baseball tonight between the New York Yankees and the San Francisco Giants. No predictions for that game. It's just one game out of 162, but I'll give my predictions for the 2026 Major League Baseball season. You're going to want to stay tuned for that on Carver Amp Live in just 1 minute before we get out of here. Welcome back to Carver Amp Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Wednesday. I got to say this, though, before we get to Major League Baseball 2026 predictions. Y'all know that I've been doing over the last month and a half, which is how long the show's been out, been doing a review of Love Story, John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette, and then uploading the full reviews on the YouTube channel, what have you. Season finale's tomorrow night. And given the fact that I'm going to be almost certainly taking next week off from the show before coming back the following week, I will likely be doing a review. I usually do the reviews on Mondays. I'll be reviewing episode 9 or Friday night. And based on, I saw a quote from Eric Bergen, who I gave a shout out to for his performance in episode 7 as Anthony Raswell, who's John F. Kennedy Jr.'s cousin and best friend who battles cancer at the end of the show and the end of his life. And I don't know if this interview was recently. I'm not going to assume it was. But he talked about kind of the behind the scenes aspect of filming that final episode. And not only he said, something along the lines of like, this is some of the most difficult material of my acting career, but he talked to Connor Hines, who's like the writer for the show. Like, are they going to let us do this? Which that's very open-ended. I don't know what that means. Again, we know obviously what happens to John F. Kennedy Jr., Carolyn Bessette, and her sister Lauren Bessette at the end of the show. But man, then I saw Constance Zimmer, who plays Carolyn Bessette's mom, had some quotes about it's just really difficult. So it's just like, okay, so this is just gonna be a 1 hour and 15-minute just gut punch, which is not that that's surprising to any of us, because we know how the show ends. So I'm very curious to get into episode 9, which is tomorrow night on FX at 9 p.m. Eastern, airs on Hulu, Disney Plus at midnight, and then Friday at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time. Probably more like 6:45 to 7-ish, because we do it at the end of the show. I'll be reviewing that, and dadgum, it's gonna be tough. But it's been a great show. Hate that it's coming to an end. Hate knowing what the end is. Curious to see how they portray it and put it together. So we'll see. All right. Happier, lighthearted topic. Baseball's back, ladies and gentlemen. Opening night tonight, New York Yankees, San Francisco Giants from Oracle Park. It's on Netflix. Yeah, Netflix signed a big TV deal with Major League Baseball, so that should be fun to see. But let me give my predictions real quick before we get out of here for MVPs of the American League, National League, and then, of course, who goes to and wins the World Series. So I'm going to spend the shortest amount of time on the most obvious one of the three. National League MVP, it's going to be Shohei Ohtani's until it isn't. I'm sorry. He's won 4 MVPs. I get 2 of them have come to the National League. He's won in, 2021, 22, 24, and 25. The last 2 of those being in the National League with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Again, when we're talking about a guy who's not only indisputably, I think, the best player in baseball, but a guy who's putting himself in position to be in the GOAT discussion, second most MVPs in history, 4 of them. You have to imagine his arm's going to be even healthier. The way that he finished the postseason, particularly in that Game 4 against the Milwaukee Brewers, one of the greatest games I've ever seen any player ever play, or where he pitched, 6 scoreless and 10 strikeouts, and he hit 3 home runs. Like, this guy's an alien. He's unbelievable. And so I think Shohei Ohtani, it's his until it isn't. Someone's got to take it from him. Someone's got to blow our minds. Or there's got to be, sometimes the MVP can be a narrative award. There's got to be a narrative that just is so compelling. That, and of course, the production, the play, that makes us say, got to give it to this guy, not Shohei, the best player in baseball. It's going to be Shohei Ohtani until it isn't. Might very well catch Barry Bonds' record of 7 MVPs, which will be fascinating to see, but that's a multi-year development. American League, it's much more tricky. I'll be honest. I thought about Bobby Witt Jr. with the Kansas City Royals. I came down to 3 guys, all of which who reside in the American League East. Vlad Guerrero Jr., who came so close to winning World Series last year. The reigning defending American League MVP, Aaron Judge, who obviously won last year. I think it should have went to Cal Raleigh. Most home runs in history by catcher. Okay. And from the Boston Red Sox, my beloved Boston Red Sox, Roman Anthony, who's played 71 games in his career. 292 average, pretty good for the first 71 games. Played great in the World Baseball Classic. And if you hear what Boston media, who, listen, we know, I'm not from Boston, I'm from Tennessee. If you know how Boston media is, Boston fans are like, they are demanding, they are produce for me now, what have you. They're not just going to give flowers to a guy just out of the goodness of their hearts. Like, we got to see you produce. The Northeast that's kind of mindset in general. New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. Like, that's the mindset. After going over each carefully, I think it's going to go to Aaron Judge. I think Aaron Judge, I saw a stat today that if he hits 40 home runs, that will be the 5th time he will have done that in his career. That will be the all-time record. There are 3 other guys who have tied Aaron Judge, who have as many 40 home run seasons as Aaron Judge. They are the greatest Yankee ever, Babe Ruth, and then of course the Summer of Love, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire. What do those 3 have in common? There are, and I don't believe in asterisks in sports, but you can make a case for all 3 that there's some level of asterisk. For McGwire and Sosa, it's pretty straightforward. They were on steroids. Like, they were not the same player, on the juice as they were off the juice. There was a dramatic jump. And then with Babe Ruth, obviously no steroids in the early 20th century, but, it was a segregated sport. Babe Ruth was not playing against all of the best players in Major League Baseball, or in baseball at that time. Well, Aaron Judge obviously is playing all the best players in the world, and steroids, Major League Baseball polices that more than any other sport. So I think if he does that, I think that baseball's big on records. They are big on history. That will really help his case. As much as I would love to see, and I think Roman Anthony's going to have a huge year. I think he will be in the MVP discussion. I would not be shocked if in mid to late September, I'm not pounding this table, pulling for my guy Roman, my Roman Empire to win MVP. I still think it's going to be Aaron Judge. So repeat of the last couple of years, Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. Now, who wins the pennant in the American League and the National League? Let's start with the National League. So obviously the Dodgers are the back-to-back champions. Are trying to do something that has not been done since I believe it was the 98, 99, and 2000 New York Yankees, and that's the repeat. And so the deal is the Dodgers are already a dynasty. I know people don't like to count titles from 2020. Listen, shortened season, I get it. Pandemic, all 30 teams were dealing with those exact same circumstances. It's not like the Dodgers got preferential treatment. They won the thing fair and square. And then they've, of course, won in 24 and 25. I thought about Philly. Then bringing back Kyle Schwarber was big. I really thought Kyle Schwarber might come back to the Red Sox. I know there's a lot of buzz and excitement about teams like the Cubs. Just extended Pete Crow Armstrong, which is a good deal on their part. Got an excellent starting rotation. Guys come back from injury. You've got, obviously, the New York Mets. Steve Cohen's like, hey, we're going to let guys such as, the big panda walk out the back door. Pete Alonso, who's a show favorite of my good friend Alfred Parsard Jr., used to do the intro for his show, which was very kind of him to do. So I hated it for Alfred that, Pete Alonso departed. The Mets seem to be a more complete team now than they were a year ago. But similar to Shohei Ohtani, winning the National League MVP, not quite to this level, but a lot went wrong for the Dodgers last year. I mean, rotation dealt with injuries, lineup dealt with injuries. The bullpen was not good. They were the 3 seed in the National League, and they won the darn thing. That did so by the absolute skin of their teeth in Game 7 in Toronto, but they're the champions today. So if those guys come back healthy, if you're able to add arms to your rotation to the bullpen, obviously you brought in Edwin Diaz, who was a great get on their part. The lineup is what it is. It's self-explanatory. I will be out. I've said this about dynasties. I used to say this. People used to get on me when I said this about the Chiefs. Like, oh, you're a Chiefs, a closet Chiefs fan. I'm like, no, I'm a fan of dynasties and I'm a believer in dynasties. If a team keeps winning, if a team's strategy keeps working, I'm going to roll with that team. I will bet against the Dodgers when they give me a reason to. I'm taking the Dodgers to win the National League. American League. First of all, let's go ahead and say right now, it ain't going to be the Yankees. it ain't going to be the New York Yankees. Haven't won a title since 2009. Obviously made the World Series a couple years ago. Got gentlemen swept by the Dodgers. A beautiful thing to see. It's not going to be the Yankees. So who is it going to be? Well, I know there are some that are kind of believers ish in the Cleveland Guardians. I'm not one of them. American League West got some teams. Seattle came very close to getting to the World Series last year. There's a lot of believers in the Mariners. The only thing that really holds me back with Seattle, clubhouse camaraderie is a real thing in baseball. It's a real thing in sports, locker rooms and what have you. And when I saw Big Dumper with his teammate Randy Rosarina and the exchange they had, I know they're competing at the World Baseball Classic, but they're not on, I think if I watched the video correctly, it was Big Dumper, Cal Raleigh, shake hands or like fist bump with a Rosarina. And Rosarina wouldn't do it. Now, you could say for Randy, like, hey, we're in competition. It's World Baseball Classic. You're my teammate. Love you. Trying to hit the baseball here. A little weird. So we'll see. I'm down to 2 teams, and I went back and forth on this. The Detroit Tigers, who were on the brink of the collapse of collapses. They went from best team in the American League to just got in the playoffs by the skin of their teeth at the end of the season last year. But the pitching staff, you've got Tariq Skubal, you've got Framber Valdez, you've got a good lineup of young talent. I thought about Detroit, and I did think about my Red Sox. I did. If you had asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd say, yeah, the Sox are, I think that we're going to be a playoff team. I can't see us going deeper than the ALDS. Why? I don't love our lineup from a power hitting perspective. And I have criticized the Yankees for years, and you see it hasn't gotten them many championships yet. I've criticized the Yankees for years for being like, man, power hitting till we die. That's what we're doing. And screw hitting for average. Screw just getting on base. We're just going to try and hit him out of the short porch in right field. Okay. I'm not saying the Red Sox going to go to those extremes. But when your home run leader a year ago was Trevor Story, who had 25, and you let Alex Bregman go, and you already traded Rafael Devers a year ago, and that trade has done nothing for you, that's a concern. But then I watched the World Baseball Classic, and, athletes like any of us in their downtime and their off seasons can get better. I saw Jaron Duran hit 3 home runs. I saw Wilyer Abreu do his thing. I saw Roman Anthony show up for Team USA, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. I saw a stat today because the Red Sox are going to have a very specific way they win games this year. And I'm picking us to win the AL East, by the way. Edge out the Yankees and the Blue Jays. I'm not a believer in Baltimore. If you look at the Red Sox rotation, so they already had a good rotation last year. It got better in the offseason with the additions of Ranger Suarez and Sonny Gray. If you combine the ERAs of the ERA of the 5 pitchers in the Red Sox starting rotation, if you combine their ERA from a season ago and average it out, it would have been the lowest ERA in Major League Baseball, 3.31. You're talking about, obviously, Garrett Crochet, who I think should have been the AL Cy Young Award winner last year, and in his first playoff opportunity, first playoff game against the Yankees, got us our only win, was outstanding in Yankee Stadium in that spot. Bram Bayo, I've been a believer in him for years. He's the number 2 guy. Connolly Early, Ranger Suarez, who they got from Philadelphia, and Sonny Gray from the St. Louis Cardinals. We know in Major League Baseball, it's all about pitching. Who is the MVP for the LA Dodgers in the World Series this year? Wasn't Freddie Freeman won the year before. Wasn't Mookie Betts. Wasn't Shohei Ohtani. It was a pitcher. It was Yamamoto, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who was the hero in Game 6. And in Game 7, obviously, comes in relief and delivers one of the greater efforts out of the bullpen we've seen in recent World Series history. The pitching's got to get you there. Alex Cora's a smart manager. I think Roman Anthony is going to bring the power, to that lineup that they're hoping to see. You've got, obviously, you still got the clutch man, Ceddanne Rafaela. You've got plenty of guys in this lineup. Aroldis Chapman coming back to be your closer. He had a great 2025. Getting older, but we'll see. Hopefully he can continue that in 2026. I think we get a good old-fashioned classic LA-Boston World Series, which we actually got in 2018. That's the last time my Red Sox won the World Series. And in that spot, in a 7-game just slugfest, where the Dodgers have the better lineup, but the Sox have the better rotation, 2 excellent managers, Dave Roberts and Alex Cora. Red Sox win the World Series, baby. I'm calling it right now. Sox in 7 over the Dodgers. We stopped the three-peat. You're welcome, Yankees fans. We stopped the three-peat. And the Red Sox, despite some, I thought, a questionable approach to their offseason, I want to see us get a big-time, bat at the trade deadline. I think that's going to be really important for this team to do. But the Red Sox, call me a homer. Call me a biased fanboy. Feel free. But Vegas currently has is the 6th best odds to win the American League. October, it's all about vibes, and it's all about pitching. Hopefully the vibes are good with the Red Sox. The pitching, we know, is going to be good. Combine the ERA of the top 5 starters in the Red Sox rotation, their ERAs to this year. Combine that, lowest ERA would have been the lowest ERA in Major League Baseball, 3.31. Red Sox win the World Series. It's been a minute since one of my teams has won a championship, so I want to have a big celebration and what have you on Carver Up Live. That can be very, very fun. All right, and last thing. I want to get out ahead of this, especially given that the guy I'm referring to, he's making his debut as a manager tonight. I'm talking about my man Tony Vitello, who is the head coach of the Tennessee Volunteers college baseball team. I apologize. Then he obviously left. They won the College World Series 2024, played last season, and then he got hired to be the new manager of the San Francisco Giants. can tell you Major League Baseball already doesn't like what I'm going to say because they muted my mic. If you don't know anything about Tony Vitello, I met him briefly, really nice dude, you know. If you've never watched the Vols, not really that big into college baseball, I'll fill you in. Tony Vitello, especially being coach in college and, now manager in Major League Baseball, is everything the old purist and traditionalists hate. Is vocal. He's somebody who celebrations aren't just tolerated on his teams, but encouraged. He's somebody who does not play the traditional, like, oh, that's the way that game's been played. And no. Tennessee was absolutely one of the most celebrating teams we saw in sports, not in baseball, in sports. Bat flips, dances, team coming out of the dugout to celebrate the guy hitting the home run. At points, if you're the opponent, you're like, it almost got obnoxious to a certain degree, right? It's gotten better. But like when you watch the World Baseball Classic and you see, and we understand how much it meant to Venezuela to win the thing. But a guy from Venezuela hit a home run and he'd get mobbed at home plate once he crossed. You see it in softball all the time. I've always said softball has way more fun playing the game than baseball players, mostly because they're allowed to. And it's encouraged. Tony Vitello encourages it. So if you see, Rafael Devers might not be the best example because he's not that demonstrative, but let's just use him as an example because he's the best player in the Giants lineup. If Rafi Devers hits a home run, and he is the daddy of the New York Yankees, we know that. Trust me, I know he's a Red Sox fan. That's why I hated that we traded him. If he hits a home run at Oracle Park tonight, hits it into the bay, and the ballpark's going crazy, and the dugout for the Giants going crazy, and they like mob him at home plate in the fourth inning, this will be a developing story across Major League Baseball as time goes on, because the Giants have a chance to have a pretty good team this year. Not as good as their in-division rival, the Dodgers, and the Padres. We know about their situation with their rotation. But I think Tony Vitello might quickly become Major League Baseball's greatest villain, and I'm all here for it. That's my guy. I'm pulling for him. Obviously, I wish he was at Tennessee still, but I think he's going to do a great job with the San Francisco Giants. They got a winner. Listen, I understand no prior experience in Major League Baseball. It's a risk. It absolutely is. But I think this is somebody that's going to absolutely crush it. And I need somebody who's going to be one of the leaders in hopefully breaking down a lot of the traditionalists. You don't take too long to run around the bases after a home run. You don't do it too fast and all of it. He's like, gosh darn it, man, this is a game. We're here to have fun. I'm excited. I'm excited for this to be a story of the Major League Baseball season. I will put my money on it. There will be a carving up the context. It might come in a couple of weeks. It might be in mid-April. Oh, Tony Vitello, this young, arrogant kid is bad for baseball. Who does he think he is? It's coming, and I'm looking forward to it. Wish you were still at Tennessee, but I'm looking forward to it. So you could see it tonight when the Giants take on the Yankees on national TV, on Netflix. Should be interesting. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, Twitch, and on X. You can also check out Carving Up anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, iHeart Podcasts, any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts. Check out our other amazing content creators on the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere that you get your podcast. Please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button right down there here on the YouTube channel, whether you're watching on the Grid, on Carving It Up. If you're watching on any of our other platforms, go and hop over to YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. We really, really appreciate it in a major way. And we'll be back on Friday to talk, I'm sure, some NBA stuff. March Madness continues. Sweet 16 on the men's side starts tomorrow. Women's shortly after. So very, very excited to get into all of those things on Friday's show. Hope everybody has a great week. We'll see y'all on Friday. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. And again, stop waiting for Aaron Rodgers, please. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. And be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.